888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. President Joe Biden coughed in his hand, was not wearing a mask, and then proceeded to shake hands with people. Isn't that anti-CDC? I'll circle back with you on that one. Biden also told elementary school children that his job is to avoid media questions. He didn't take any questions from the elementary school kids either. Now, Jake Tapper questioned the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen yesterday about all the spending that the Democrats want to do and asked her whether or not it might contribute to inflation. Oh, no. It's just spread out over 10 years. We're going to talk to Professor Leo Hanian about that in the second hour. Stick around for that. More and more public sector employees say they were going to quit their jobs rather than to submit to vaccine mandates. We're going to talk to a Beverly Hills firefighter in the third hour who is refusing to take the vaccine, citing his religious concerns. All of that and more between now and the close of the program. Oh, let me also mention this. Mark Zuckerberg is the CEO of Facebook. Do you realize the great percentage of people that get their news from Facebook? And there's a new book that talks about how Facebook employees are suppressing conservative content, like we didn't know that. By the way, since I finished my gubernatorial race, I've lost probably about 15,000 followers on Twitter, even though I've never been more popular. So it's not just Facebook. But guess who's complaining about negative publicity about his company? Mark Zuckerberg. Says the media is depicting a, quote, false picture of the company. In other words, he's accusing the media of engaging in fake news. You mean they're suppressing good news about Facebook the way you've been suppressing conservative content? I'm just asking. Governor DeSantis of Florida says to people that are been fired, especially cops over the vaccine mandates, come on down to Florida. We'll treat you better. I can tell you, I spent some time in Key West. I loved it. Didn't like the bugs. A lot of mosquitoes down there in Key West. And they're pretty non-discriminatory about who they bite. Now, I want to start, however, with Virginia for a couple of reasons. Virginia, like California, is having like California did recently, is having a gubernatorial race, although unlike California, their race is not a recall race. It's a mano-a-mano race between a guy named Glenn Youngkin, who is the Republican, and Terry McAuliffe, who was the governor before. Virginia only has one term. And so he served a term and is now trying to run again after not serving. Terry McAuliffe is also former chair of the DNC, big Clinton guy. And the polls have the race pretty much neck and neck for a long time. The race, by the way, is next week. For a long time, it looked as if McAuliffe was going to win pretty handily, and then his lead began to shrink, and then his lead was in the margin of error. Now, according to one respected poll, it literally is a dead heat. And so McAuliffe is doing the same thing that Gavin Newsom did out here in California, and that is bring in the heavy lumber, specifically Barack Obama. And Barack Obama said something yesterday that deeply, deeply offended people in Virginia and might very well have handed the election over to the Republican opponent. Let me explain before I play what Obama said. The head of the Loudoun County School Board in Virginia covered up a report that a male student in a skirt allegedly assaulted a female student in the girls' bathroom. You might remember there was some real altercation at one of the school board meetings where a man yelled and screamed. He got arrested. He got battered. It turned out he is the father of the girl, but didn't say anything, apparently because the police told him not to say anything because the matter was under investigation. Now, the head of the school board, of the Loudoun County superintendent, his name is Scott Ziegler, and he was aware of the assault. And by the way, there was a second assault by the same gender fluid person. He publicly declared that there was no record of bathroom assaults. He apparently lied. Prosecutors have confirmed that the same man who stands accused in the May incident also stands accused of a sexual assault in an October incident at another school. He was transferred after this from one school to the next. And apparently the school board member knew about this, nevertheless publicly declared that there was no record of bathroom assaults because the issue of transgender use of bathrooms came up. So parents have demanded that this man resign, and Youngkin has also joined them in the demands that he resign. So Obama comes in and calls it a trumped-up, phony culture war.
We don't have time to be wasting on these phony, trumped-up culture wars. This fake outrage that right-wing media peddles to juice their ratings. And the fact that he's willing to go along with it instead of talking about serious problems that actually affect serious people, that's a shame. That's not what this election's about. That's not what you need, Virginia. Instead of forcing our communities to cut back at a time when we're just starting to recover, we should be doing more to support people who are educating our kids and keeping our neighborhoods safe.
Here is what one parent tweeted, quote, "My kids' schools were shut down for a year. A girl was raped in a bathroom in Loudoun County. Terry McAuliffe said I shouldn't have a say in my child's education. None of those things is phony or trumped up," end of quote. People are livid over Obama coming here and suggesting that the outrage that many of these parents have is completely phony and is trumped up. Now, there are a number of reasons why the Gavin Newsom strategy that was employed successfully against me will not work in Virginia. And the biggest reason is that the electoral battlefield is very different. Out here in California, half of the registered voters are Democrats. A quarter of them are independents, and even the New York Times admitted that independents in California vote Democrat. The other quarter is registered Republicans. And since 2003, when we had the first and only successful recall of a governor, a Democrat governor, that's when Arnold Schwarzenegger took over, there has been a 33% decline in registered Republicans here in California, a 33% decline, a 5% increase in registered Democrats, to the point where, as I mentioned, almost half of all voters in California are registered Democrats, and a 50% increase in registered independents who vote Democrat. In Virginia, very different landscape. Virginia is 38% Republican, 35% Democrat, 25% independent. Virginia also has something that we didn't have out here in California, and that's legitimate media. They would not allow a candidate to be referred to as the black face of white supremacy. I know Youngkin is white, but the point is that the media there are truly interested in real issues, and they are not serving as a public relations bureau to protect Democrats the way the media out here in California has operated. Another big difference is this. In my race, I was outspent 10-1. The money in Virginia is pretty much even. The Republicans are spending just as much money as are the Democrats, so you don't have this very, very lopsided financial battlefield. And the other factor is they are actually having debates. They either had one or two. And I was asked over and over and over again, why aren't you debating your Republicans? They had 4 debates. You didn't show up for any of them. And I would say over and over and over again to the media, why aren't you asking Gavin Newsom to debate me? To my knowledge, he was never, ever asked that question. They can't escape that in Virginia because they are having to debate. And the ads are also very different. Terry McAuliffe, of course, is tying Donald Trump to his opponent. Listen to this ad.
On education, whose lead would Glenn Youngkin follow?
President Trump represents so much of why I'm running.
That's right. Glenn Youngkin would bring Donald Trump and Betsy DeVos's education policies to Virginia. Youngkin's plan shifts money from public schools to private schools instead.
More on this when we come back. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
That's kind of my shtick. Traveling the country, going to high school and college campuses, talking about how we need to properly educate young people about American history, civics, the development of the character, understanding how parents should have a primary role in their children's education, trying to have young people understand that there is objective truth, educate them about metaphysics and a transcendent order and meaning. These are things that I've been warning about for years, and I don't want to say that I was ignored. That would not be fair. Conservative base always took it seriously. People considered it to be a top 10 issue.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I also have a view that the withdrawal of those forces would lead inevitably to the collapse of the Afghan military forces and eventually the Afghan government.
Well, you were right, and it took 11 days for the Taliban to take over Afghanistan. Have you seen some of the images coming out of Afghanistan, by the way? They're real pleasant. Bodies being hung from overpasses, people being executed in the street, an Afghan soldier led out into the street and just shot dead. The Taliban walking around with these giant whips and they're hitting women over the backs. Here's Secretary Austin also contradicting Biden and exposing Joe Biden for the bald-faced lie, the bald-faced lie he told the American people.
It's a simple question, Secretary Austin. He said no senior military leader advised him to leave a small troop presence behind. Is that true or not? Did these officer and General Miller's recommendations get to the president personally?
Their input was received by the president and considered by the president for sure. In terms of what they specifically recommended, Senator, as they just said, they're not going to provide what they recommended in confidence.
What a crap storm. What a crap show. Senator Josh Hawley put it best. Thank goodness for people like Josh Hawley and Marsha Blackburn and Dan Sullivan. The Republicans were certainly on fire yesterday in holding these failed commanders to have some sort of at least a public accountability.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Hey, Larry, keep up the good work. Thank you very much for your hard work. Go USA.
Hey, Mr. Elder. I just want to say thank you for all you do. I enjoy your show. I've been listening actually for only a few days, almost a week, and I can't believe that I didn't know about your show. I've always seen your YouTube videos. Well, actually, I've been watching those for a few months, and I just appreciate everything you're doing, man, and keep pushing out the truth and calling out ignorance wherever wherever you may need to. Thanks a lot, and yeah, all best.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243.
Hey, Larry, I just want to say you were a godsend. Watch your channel on YouTube all the time. And just wanted to say, in one day, I had 7 people block me on Facebook, and 15 other people are really mad at me now. And all I've been doing is quoting facts from the videos I've seen from you. Love you, man. Have a great life.
Can't do that. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Again, you can watch the show live. Just go to youtube.com/The Larry Elder Show Radio, youtube.com/The Larry Elder Show Radio. Now, you've helped build MyPillow into the amazing company it is today. Mike has an amazing offer for my listeners on his standard MyPillows. You'll receive a standard MyPillow regularly $69.98, now only $19.98. You'll also receive deep discounts on all MyPillow products, such as the MyPillow towels, a mattress topper, My Slippers, and so much more. Just go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square to receive Mike's standard MyPillow for just $16.98, or call 800-890-1843. Be sure and use promo code Larry. MyPillow made right here in the country, 10-year warranty, so you know it's going to last, and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you've got nothing to lose. It's time to start getting the quality sleep we not only want, but need. Again, go to MyPillow.com or call 800-890-1843. Be sure and use promo code Larry. The ad that Terry McAuliffe played tried to link, of course, Donald Trump to his opponent. Also during the debate, here's what Terry McAuliffe said.
He's a total wannabe Donald Trump. He's been endorsed by Donald Trump 4 times. We don't need a Donald Trump in khakis. Let me tell you that, folks.
Here's the problem. The Youngkin campaign put up the following ad with all sorts of pictures showing Terry McAuliffe palling around with Donald Trump. Terry McAuliffe praising Donald Trump. Terry McAuliffe seeking a financial campaign contribution from Donald Trump.
Terry McAuliffe is dishonest. He spends all his time attacking Donald Trump. But here's the truth.
I've known Trump for 25 years.
McAuliffe did anything to get Trump's money.
I dealt with him extensively.
McAuliffe asked Trump for $25,000 to support his campaign.
I'd like to ask a friend of mine, I've known him a long time, Governor Terry McAuliffe.
Golfed with him, hugged him, toasted him.
To the President of the United States of America.
Come on, McAuliffe, stop talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Yikes. Had a lot of footage, too. Speaking of Obama, so Obama comes to Virginia to try and save Terry McAuliffe. One more time. One of the big issues in Virginia is school choice. I pushed school choice here in California. Media didn't give a damn. They kept asking me about whether or not I thought the election in 2020 was stolen. They kept asking me about abortion. They kept asking me about all sorts of things. Would you replace Dianne Feinstein in the event that she resigns with a Republican? I said, what does any of this have to do with why 2.2 million people, 1.6 certified, signed a petition to recall this man? And unlike the media in Virginia, the media out here in California, complicit, wanted to make sure that he kept his job, went along with it. LA Times twice endorsed Gavin Newsom when he was running and editorialized against a recall. The Sacramento Bee endorsed Gavin Newsom, editorialized against a recall. And so they had a vested interest in making sure that this guy remained in office and the recall failed. And they behaved accordingly. So Obama comes to Virginia. By the way, Obama would have been canceled had Obama not done a 180 on reparations. 2008, here's what Obama said about reparations, which the majority of blacks want, polls show. Quote, I have said in the past, and I repeat again, that the best reparations we can provide are good schools in the inner city and jobs for people who are unemployed, end of quote. I'll get to the jobs for people who are unemployed in just a second. Good schools in the inner city, but the man opposes school choice and tried to shut down the D.C. Opportunity Program, scholarship program, that provided scholarships so people could get their kids out of underperforming government schools in Washington, D.C., and maybe give them a better opportunity. Democrats and Obama tried to shut the program down. Donald Trump revived it. Then in 2016, 8 years later, here's what Obama said about reparations. So the bottom line is that it is hard to find a model in which you can practically administer and sustain political support for those kinds of efforts. Everybody potentially can make the claim that we should all be treated fairly, end of quote. And here's what he said this year, quote, so if you ask me theoretically, are reparations justified? The answer is yes, end of quote. Of course, he always leaves himself out, doesn't he, theoretically. The point is, had Obama not evolved on the issue of reparations, the Democrats on the left, and that's where all the energy is with the squad, with Kingmaker, Al Sharpton, he would have been canceled. Now, regarding good schools, I'll say again, this man, K through 12 for his own life, never set foot in a public school. He was educated in Indonesia when he was 10 years old by the private school that was set up by the oil company that his stepfather worked for. Mom felt that wasn't a good enough education. Sends him back to Hawaii. So he lives with his maternal grandparents. Attends Punahou. Anybody from Hawaii? Punahou, finest prep school in the whole state. Comes to California, 2 years, goes to Occidental. Very fine, very selective, liberal art school, private. Finishes up Ivy League school, Columbia, private, of course. Goes to Harvard, private. Kids were educated in a private school set up by the teachers at the University of Chicago, where Obama was a lecturer in the law school. Private. They go to D.C. Michelle Obama makes a big display out of looking at a bunch of schools, including public schools. And, of course, selected Sidwell Friends, $40,000 a year, private. Michelle Obama, I think we said this yesterday, she went to a public high school, that's true, but it wasn't her nearby high school because she felt, her family did, it was inferior. She traveled far away to go to a better school. Today we call that school choice. So their family benefited K through 12 from school choice, tried to shut down the D.C. school choice program, and is denying you to have school choice. Why? Because the energy behind the Democratic Party is a teachers union, and they hate school choice. What a phony. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This White House has absolutely no idea what is happening in America. It is completely divorced from reality, devoid of any understanding. And you know, they always say that the organization reflects the leader. Well, they've got a feckless, pathetic, completely out to lunch leader, and that has completely permeated this White House, if you can call it that.
So at this point, it's hard to imagine how much worse the situation could get. In that case, the question I always return to, and you are a guy who's worked on so many campaigns, not just in the White House, your political sense is fine-tuned. Is there not a point, if you look at the cargo ships off L.A., you look at the 2 million illegal aliens, you look at the 4 million people who resigned from their jobs last year, you look at the inflation, you look at everything to do with national security. Is there no point at which Biden becomes an albatross around the neck of the Democrats, or are they just too afraid to have the cackler in the Oval?
It's happened already. Look at Virginia.
Yeah.
Terry McAuliffe is losing to Youngkin in a race where Biden won by 10 points.
But hang on, Boris.
Okay?
Boris, it's not just that, you know, Youngkin has a shot. Did you ever think that Terry McAuliffe would actually publicly state that the Democrat president is the reason that he might lose Virginia?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
But yet our country is controlled by Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and BioNTech, and therefore we're not even allowed to have a conversation about ivermectin. But the few people that are free speech warriors like Joe Rogan, he does not let up. Cut 55, and then we'll go through all 3 cuts here. And this is, by the way, if you have not listened to this podcast discussion with Sanjay Gupta, it's incredible. Because maybe Sanjay Gupta thought that they were going to have a nice little conversation about why people need to wear masks. I don't know what he was thinking going on Joe Rogan's show. But Joe is mad, and good for Joe. Joe Rogan asked Sanjay Gupta, does it bother you that CNN lied about me? Cut 55.
Does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before coming on your podcast.
But they did it with such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
They did. I watched.
Gorgeous. I want to frame that. Because because we see this little shriveling of a weak human, Sanjay Gupta. I should have asked. I didn't know. You understand that these media reporters have never been called out before? I think Sanjay Gupta was there to promote a book. I don't think it's doing very well after that. I think he has a new book, like COVID War Zero or something. I really think it's called World War COVID. I think that's the name of the book. And so CNN, he's the medical guy there. And so Joe says, you're the medical guy there. What do you mean? And Joe Rogan doesn't give up. He's a dog with a bone, everybody. He says, wait a second. It should bother you. It's a lie on your network, and it's your conscience of it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Thanks for calling out Torre or whatever his name is. These woke brothers that are all things black crack me up because they never marry black women. So thanks for just pointing out his hypocrisy on calling out Condoleezza.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. So Biden is coming out to Virginia and is going to give a endorsement and another speech for the Democrat in Virginia. By the way, Trump endorsed the Republican when he got the nomination in May, but has not done any events with the candidate. He called into a rally in support of a statewide GOP ticket where attendees pledged allegiance to a flag to be carried at the rally. But Youngkin was not there and denounced the pledge as, quote, weird and wrong. Now, for my race, Trump never endorsed me, nor did I seek his endorsement, but still my opponent referred to me as, quote, more Trump than Trump. I was called a Trump Republican, Trump light, Trump wannabe. Trump endorsed this guy, didn't endorse me. And by the way, the Republican is a former private equity executive. And like me, he is running in his first campaign for political office. Now, I mentioned that Obama in 2008 was opposed to reparations and said the best reparations we can provide are good schools, something that he is thwarting by opposing school choice, by providing good schools in the inner city and jobs for people who are unemployed, end of quote. Regarding jobs for people who are unemployed, you ever take a look at Obama's record when he was president? Here's what Tavis Smiley said. Forget about Elder. Tavis Smiley, with whom I had a pretty contentious interview when I was running for governor, he said I was anti-black. I said, why am I anti-black? He said, you're opposed to reparations. I said, majority of the country is opposed to reparations. Obama used to be opposed to reparations. Here's what Tavis Smiley said about Obama's performance for blacks.
I'm sad to report that in every
single leading economic category, Black America has lost ground over the last decade. In every major economic category, we've lost ground. So this book comes out, as you said, in 2006. So clearly, this book was out before Obama shows up to win in 2008. So the book was never about Barack Obama then. This 10-year update is not about him now. But it is true that over these last 10 years, most of that on his watch, Black America has lost ground in the major economic indicator categories.
Poverty, black poverty, up from the time Obama entered the office until the time he left. From a time period of 2010 to 2013, black net worth fell 1/3. I repeat, black net worth fell 1/3, while white net worth, and we were having a bad economic time, pretty much flatlined. Now, how do you blame that on Obama? Well, because the primary reason for the dramatic fall in black net worth is because a whole bunch of people lost their homes. Well, how did that happen? We always have recessions. You don't find that kind of destruction. It's because a whole lot of people shouldn't have had a home in the first place. Well, why did they get a home in the first place if they weren't creditworthy? Because when Obama was a private citizen, he joined other lawyers in suing Citigroup on behalf of, I believe it was around 186 plaintiffs. I think I talked about this last week. 186 plaintiffs who claimed that they were credit worthy, but they were being denied loans because the racist bank wouldn't give it to them. So Citigroup said, okay, gave them the loans. And several years later, virtually every single one of them was unable to keep up with the loan. In fact, two of them publicly said, you know, when people really can't afford the loans, banks shouldn't be giving them loans. Hello? 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Art is in Salem, Oregon. Art, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Larry, it's great to talk to you again.
You too.
It is just incredible how these Democratic people, Obama, McCullough, you know, put out all this bull, Larry. Where are the Democrats, cities and states ranked in education compared to Republican-run states? You and I both know, Larry, that, of course, the Republican-run states for schools and stuff are run better. Not only that, one of the things that these Democrats do also is they eliminate the police liaisons in the schools and stuff, and you have more violence, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, Art, thank you very much for the call. I'll elaborate on that on the other side. Art, appreciate the call. Have you ordered your 3-week quick start yet? Still discounted to only $19.95. That is less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day for you to stay out of pain. You see, the docs who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free, to deal with pain from a different metabolic pathway. So, if you've got back, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain from exercise, or just getting older, consider ordering the 3-week quick start. Over 70% of those who order it go on to order more. ReliefFactor.com. ReliefFactor.com. 800-500-8384. 800-500-8384.
How 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
Go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Bank transactions. The Democrats want the IRS to snoop around and check out what you're doing if you have a bank account with more than $600 in it. They want to get involved in your PayPal transactions. You're sending money to your kids. The IRS wants to know all about that. They think they can drag more money out of us. Like the IRS. And the Democrats' scheme is we got to figure a way to pay for all this crap. All this spending the Democrats want. Okay, here's the way we can do it. Let's go audit a bunch of people and let's go check out grandma sending $601 to their grandkid via PayPal. And when a reporter pointed out to Pelosi that Americans are livid about this, and is it going to stay in your reconciliation bill? Pelosi had a very predictable answer.
Yes, there are concerns that some people have, but if people are breaking the law and not paying their taxes, one way to track them is through the banking measure. I think 600, but that's a negotiation that will go on as to what the amount is. But yes.
Yes. You think a multi-millionaire like Nancy Pelosi cares about a hardworking person being tracked by the IRS? If you have a transaction over $600, yes, some people are calling the bank. You better call your bank. You got a relationship with a local banker? You better call him or her, and you better demand there be a pushback.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Yes, my name is Trudy. I'm calling about these race issues, which I'm sick and tired of hearing about. We have one country here, and it's got Americans in it. And I don't give a rat's about what the hell color their skin is or anything else about them except where is their heart. Are they Americans or not? And that's the way I feel about it. My dad was in sales. He rose to the top. He had salesmen underneath him. And the last thing he ever considered about whether or not a salesman was a good salesman or not, he never cared about what their skin color was. He was very fair. Both my parents were not in any way racially colored about people. They took people the way they are, and they decided whether they liked them, about who they were and how they regarded themselves and how they regarded the rest of the people around them. And that's the way it should be.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Now, this past year and a half has been tough for Americans. Lockdowns, school closings, and now the rising costs of everything. We're going to be talking about the rising cost of everything with Leo Haney in next hour. It's been an especially hard time for the 30 million American small business owners and the 60 million people they employ. Now small business faces new burdens being created by their own government, none worse than the tax increases proposed in Washington, D.C., of nearly 30% increase on already struggling small businesses. There are also calls to change labor laws to favor union bosses and increase regulations. It isn't just bad policy what D.C. lawmakers are guilty of, it's bad faith. One group working hard to fight this war against small business, the great people at Job Creators Network, founded to fight for small businesses and to defend free enterprise. And they're looking for a few good men and women to build an army of small business advocates across our great country. Their advocacy program will train you up to be a voice for positive change in your community, state, and country. It'll also be a great way to network with like-minded business owners. To find out how to join JNC's growing army of small business owners, just go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com. That's jobcreatorsnetwork.com. rumble.com. Art was talking about the policies of these Democrats that supposedly are designed to help the little people, especially, quote, people of color, close quote. They oppose school choice. Studies show that school choice benefits students. Obama gave an interview with Bill O'Reilly. We talked about it the other day, where Obama was emphatic that the studies show that school choice, quote, doesn't really help all that much. And Obama specifically mentioned Milwaukee, even though the person that I mentioned yesterday, who's probably done more experience, has had more experience in studying school choice than anybody else, professor from Arkansas, named Patrick Wolf, said, I looked at Milwaukee, and Milwaukee improved the scores, improved graduation rates, and about 20% more students ended up going to college than would have been the case had it not been for the school choice program. And Obama told Bill O'Reilly, a former public school teacher, that no, the studies don't show that at all. Democrats, of course, always want to increase the minimum wage. Now they want a $15 minimum wage. Do you know that right now the unemployment rate for blacks compared to whites is about 2 to 1? Twice as many blacks are unemployed compared to whites. And it's been that way now for decades. You do know that was not always the case. There's a book by a couple of economists named Richard Vedder and Lowell Galloway. Quote, although the ratio of non-white to white unemployment in the United States has approximated 2 to 1 for most of the post-war era, such large racial differences did not exist 60 to 100 years ago. Let me repeat that, because we're always told about systemic racism and the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. Bull. Quote, although the ratio of non-white to white unemployment rates in the United States has approximated 2 to 1 for most of the post-war era, referring to World War II, such large racial differences did not exist 60 to 100 years ago. In the era from 1890 to 1930, the non-white unemployment rate did not seem to be materially different from the white rate. According to census data, 1890 unemployment for non-whites was 15.8%, only 0.8 percentage points above the reported rate for whites. Is this thing on? Well, Larry, what happened? The minimum wage and the Davis-Bacon Act, which said if you are a federal contractor, you must pay your employees prevailing union wages. As a result, black workers could no longer compete, willing to work for less money. And the minimum wage had a specific racial impact negatively for blacks. Before the minimum wage, Walter Williams, the late Walter Williams, points out, quote, on some railroads, most notably in the South, blacks were 85 to 90% of the firemen, 27% of the brakemen, and 12% of the switchmen. The Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen, they were unable to block railroad companies from hiring non-unionized black workers, so they called for regulations preventing the employment of blacks. 1909, a compromise was offered, a minimum wage, which was to be imposed equally on all races. Quote, to pro-minimum wage advocates, this may superficially seem like an anti-racist policy. But during this time, with racism still rampant, blacks were only able to enjoy such high levels of employment by accepting lower wages than their white counterparts. The new wage rule displaced black workers. One white union member at the time celebrated the new rule for removing, quote, the incentive for employing the Negro. This early minimum wage was put in place explicitly to prevent blacks from finding employment. And then you had the federal minimum wage was raised more and more and more, and all of a sudden then you found these wage gaps that you never found before. Is this thing on? Now, vaccinated or not, everybody can benefit from a stronger immune system. Immunity Armor Gold's 9 key ingredients work together as a force multiplier that helps your body build a stronger immune system. If you've learned anything over the past 2 years, it's that people with stronger immune systems have more favorable outcomes when diseases strike, period. Taking Immunity Armor Gold helped me sustain my energy and maintain my health when I was tirelessly campaigning. Some users also report better sleep quality, healthier blood levels. Made right here in the country, GMO, gluten-free, has no stimulants. Go to ImmunityArmorGold.com. Use promo code Larry10 to get 10% off. That's ImmunityArmorGold.com. Promo code Larry10 to get 10% off.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
57 Muslim states in the world, 1 Jewish state.
Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
There's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward.
When Wright came in this morning, he wants to fight you.
No one expected this out of him.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
We don't have time to be wasting on these phony, trumped-up culture wars. This fake outrage that right-wing media peddles to juice their ratings. And the fact that he's willing to go along with it instead of talking about serious problems that actually affect serious people, that's a shame. That's not what this election's about. That's not what you need, Virginia. Instead of forcing our communities to cut back at a time when we're just starting to recover, we should be doing more to support people who are educating our kids and keeping our neighborhoods safe.
I'm sad to report that in every single leading economic category, Black America has lost ground over the last decade. In every major economic category, we've lost ground. So this book comes out, as you said, in 2006. So clearly, this book was out before Obama shows up to win in 2008. So the book was never about Barack Obama then. This 10-year update is not about him now. But it is true that over these last 10 years, most of that on his watch, Black America has lost ground in the major economic indicator categories.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Next hour, we'll be talking with Professor Leo Hanian from UCLA about inflation. and about the assertion that the inflation we're experiencing right now is quote-unquote transitory. We're also going to talk about Facebook now whining that they're getting bad publicity. In other words, Mark Zuckerberg is complaining about fake news. We're also going to be talking about Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle has a comedy special on Netflix called The Closer, and he made some jokes about the transgender community. By the way, most of his jokes were about white people. The audience was predominantly white, and he basically called them racist. And, they're kicking back, laughing, paying money to see him call them racist. But people aren't concerned about that. They're concerned about the jokes he made about the transgender community. And Dave Chappelle says he's not backing down. We're going to be talking about that. It's one thing to go after somebody like Bill Maher. Another thing to go after somebody like Dave Chappelle, who's very, very popular in the black community. So this is going to get very, very interesting. All of that and more. And in the third hour, we'll be speaking with a Beverly Hills firefighter who would rather lose his job than to become vaccinated. Now, this is another reason why people in Virginia are not the same as people in California. They're far more engaged, far more concerned about what's going on in their schools. I'll tell you why. Out here in LAUSD, virtually all the kids are black or brown. Here in California in general, regarding all the public school kids, 80% of them black and brown. Not so in Virginia. The reason 80% of them are black and brown in California is that anybody's got any money. They're not putting their kids in an urban public school. Are you kidding me? Especially in LA and the Bay Area. I've got lots of white friends living in the city. Not a single one of them have their kids in a public school beyond elementary. A few of them have them elementary, but not even very many elementary. Middle school, high school, are you kidding? Forget about it. But they vote for the party for school choice, anti-school choice. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Boy, the state of Florida just fined Leon County $3.5 million because they fired 14 employees.
Coercion is just totally wrong. I think it's destroying trust in public health to the extent that there was still trust left over after all the stuff that's been done. But I think it's really, really negative, and I think you're going to end up driving people away.
You know, Governor DeSantis makes a great observation about the way the mandate is driving people in the other direction. And that's why companies have got to stop the mandates. This just has to stop. This isn't working. You cannot fire people over a vaccine.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
He is America. Captain America's trying, but not so much. It's Superman. That's why kids have loved him. Adults have loved. When I saw Superman, I was 8 years old, and I saw Christopher Reeve. You believed a man could fly. And I wanted to be an American, and now I am. But they've killed it. They killed James Bond in the new movie. Sorry, guys, spoilers. I've seen it. It's crap. Don't waste your time. They killed James Bond. Dead. Gone. Because I guess what? He was too sexy? Too toxic in his masculinity? Gone! And now they've done it with the Superman franchise. I posted this yesterday. Turned my Instagram on fire. The image of Superman in a homosexual kiss. Because DC Comics, I guess they don't want to sell comics. And now the new Superman, the son of Kal-El, is going to come out as gay, or as Jeff pointed out, I guess he's bi, right? Whatever, who cares? But here's the bottom line. This is beautiful. Hope Media Matters is writing this one up. Hey, Zachy Poo, are you typing? How many homosexuals, How many gay people are there in society? 1%, 1.5%. Let's be generous. Let's double it. 3%! 3% of America are gay. And the gay people I know, they don't rub it in your face.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
If that wasn't clear yesterday, let it be clear today. Why did people hug me? Right? The same question could be asked of the thousands of people who put their arms around me in the course of the last year in posing for pictures. They understood the risk that they were taking, and they thought that it was a minimal risk, which it turns out to have been. So while people that I know lived in their house for over a year and never left, I was hugging people. That is correct. That was the decision to choose life. You have a choice in life, to choose to live or to choose to be scared. And I chose all year and a half, now almost 2 years, to live life. I think it was the correct choice. A lot of people found it to be an admirable choice. But this is what they cover. Prager listed off a cocktail of therapeutics he said had been taken over the course of the pandemic, many of which have not been approved by the FDA. Yes. See, this is what constitutes truth for the Washington Post. The herd-like mentality. If the FDA approves it, then there's nothing to think about. If it doesn't approve it, there is nothing to think about.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
We have people losing careers in multi-million-dollar jobs because they refuse to take the vaccine that does not 100% prevent you from getting the virus. Breakthrough cases, people with the vaccine who are vaccinated are dying, and yet they say we still need to destroy your life, even if you have natural immunity, even if you have the antibodies. So one example in particular, there's two examples that highlight this, I think, rather well. The first is a place that all of you should go for lunch today, especially if you're listening on the West Coast. In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger is phenomenal. They are a wonderful company. They do a great job. The owners are Christians. And they deserve your support because now in San Francisco's only In-N-Out location, they've said, look, we are refusing to enforce the San Francisco vaccine mandate. We're not going to go ask people, show us your papers. And I'm going to be honest, people are fighting back. But to the level that we are tolerating the show me your papers, show me your medical records to go get a burger in San Francisco, America's fallen in a great regard. Now, San Francisco's its own place. San Francisco is the greatest example of anarcho-tyranny. Anarcho-tyranny where it's complete anarchy if you want to do drugs on the side of the street. If you want to defecate in a park, that's their idea of freedom. If you want to wear no clothes, you can walk through the streets of San Francisco.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Next segment, we're going to be talking to Leo Haney about a number of things about inflation. 87% of Americans say that they are concerned about inflation, something that the Biden administration says is going to be transitory, temporary, nothing to see here. We're also going to talk about the wealth tax that Nancy Pelosi is proposing.
We probably will have a wealth tax, but again, it's only 10% of what we need. The other things are more like $800 billion versus $200 billion. But we can use them another time. If they don't go away as a source of revenue to pay for how we go forward, and we want to pay for.
But you said you probably will have a wealth tax.
Well, that is, we'll see. We haven't seen the bill yet.
888-971-SAGE, 888-973. We may have a wealth tax, but it's not really sure. I'll have to see if we pass one, but I'll read it. 888-971-7243, 888-971-SAGE. Now, even Jake Tapper, CNN, was interviewing Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen about all this money being spent. And she assures us it's not that much money. After all, it's over a 10-year period of time, so don't worry too much about that. Now, Ilhan Omar, leader of the Defund the Police movement. Well, guess what's happening right now in Minneapolis? Violent crime spike. Guess whom she's blaming? The police.
What we must also recognize is that the reduction in policing currently in our city and the lawlessness that is happening is due to two things. One, the police have chosen to not fulfill their oath of office and to provide the public safety they are owed to the citizens they serve. Right? It's documented. But even before that, it was documented. The Minneapolis Police Department is the most dysfunctional police department in our state and probably in the country.
So here is a woman who wants to defund the police because the morale, Minneapolis police, in the toilet, people resigning earlier, can't get people to join a systemically racist police department. Why should they? She says the reason for the increase in violent crime is because the police are not fulfilling their oath of office. And by the way, the Minneapolis Police Department is dysfunctional, which is why, of course, she called to defund the whole thing, because it was so dysfunctional it needed to be defunded. 888-971-7243. This is rich, isn't it? You falsely accuse the police of engaging in systemic racism. You demand that they defund the police, so police departments all over the country are finding money they otherwise would receive going to other purposes. Chicago, we talked about this the other day, down 1,000 officers. Why? Many of them are resigning early, and they're having a hell of a time getting recruits, because who wants to join a police department that is perceived to be systemically racist? And as a result of cops being falsely accused of engaging in systemic racism, of racially profiling people of color, they're pulling back. And what happens when they pull back? People like Ilhan Omar accuse them of not fulfilling their oath. Much of police work, most of police work, is discretionary. You can sit in your car and respond to radio calls, or you can engage in proactive policing. And it is clear that the police are no longer engaging in proactive policing. How do we know this? Because traffic stops are dramatically down. arrests are dramatically down. Fewer stops, fewer arrests, more passive policing, crime goes up. And who are the people most affected by said crime? The very people that people like Ilhan Omar claims that they care about. And then what do? They blame the cops who are reacting to a false accusation that they're racist by pulling back so they don't get accused of being racist. Okay, you're accusing me of being racist. You're accusing me of disproportionately pulling over black people. All right, I won't pull over any of them. I'll do fewer traffic stops, which will result in fewer arrests. So the numbers will look better. You've got this governor out here in California, Gavin Newsom, who just signed another bill that will mean fewer so-called criminal enhancements on criminals. So they will serve shorter terms if convicted. Why? The rationale was given not because this was fair, but because a disproportionate percentage of the criminals were black and brown, and as a result, it's systemic racism. What? That's your rationale? Because too many of the people arrested are black and brown, therefore, we're not going to charge them to the fullest extent of the law because that would be racist. And then when crime goes up, people like Ilhan Omar accuse the very people that she just accused of systemic racism of not doing their jobs after falsely accusing them of engaging in systemic racism. And in order for them to avoid being called systemically racist, they pull back. Incredible. It's outrageous. Number one job of government is to protect people and property. It's not happening. And these lawmakers that are falsely accusing the police of engaging in systemic racism have blood on their hands. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Now I want to get back to Leo Hanian. The former economic advisor to Obama is named Larry Summers. And about the Secretary of Treasury's assertion that inflation is not, we shouldn't worry about it, it's just temporary. Here's what he said.
Look, David, we have transient inflation. Annual inflation in last month, according to core CPI, was above 10%. Majority of that is surely transient. We've got used car prices. We've got other examples that people cite that are clearly transient. But it is an elementary fallacy to confuse the idea that we have some transient inflation with the false proposition that all the inflation is transient and we have nothing to be concerned about. If you look at things that are longer lasting, labor shortages, pervasive. If you look at things like the largest component of the cost of living index, housing is on fire. As you know, as your listeners know, a majority of houses are selling above their asking prices. In many parts of the country, housing inflation has been close to 20%, the vast majority of which has not yet shown up in any index.
So we're going to talk to Professor Leo Hanian about inflation. 87%, as I mentioned, of Americans are concerned about inflation. We're going to talk about the wealth tax. We're going to talk about this multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure plan the Democrats are haggling over. All of that and more, 888-971-SAGE. Don't forget Facebook and Dave Chappelle being canceled. Don't leave town.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This White House has absolutely no idea what is happening in America. It is completely divorced from reality, devoid of any understanding, And you know, they always say that the organization reflects the leader. Well, they've got a feckless, pathetic, completely out to lunch leader, and that has completely permeated this White House, if you can call it that.
So at this point, it's hard to imagine how much worse the situation could get. In that case, the question I always return to, and you are a guy who's worked on so many campaigns, not just in the White House, your political sense is fine-tuned. Is there not a point, if you look at the cargo ships off LA, you look at the 2 million illegal aliens, you look at the 4 million people who resigned from their jobs last year, you look at the inflation, you look at everything to do with national security, with Afghanistan. Is there no point at which Biden becomes an albatross around the neck of the Democrats, or are they just too afraid to have the cackler in the Oval?
It's happened already. Look at Virginia.
Yeah.
Terry McAuliffe is losing to Youngkin in a race where Biden won by 10 points.
But hang on, Boris.
Okay.
Boris, it's not just that, you know, Youngkin has a shot. Did you ever think that Terry McAuliffe would actually publicly state that the Democrat president is the reason that he might lose Virginia?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
But yet our country is controlled by Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and BioNTech. And therefore, we're not even allowed to have a conversation about ivermectin. But the few people that are free speech warriors like Joe Rogan, he does not let up. Cut 55, and then we'll go through all three cuts here. And this is, by the way, if you have not listened to this podcast discussion with Sanjay Gupta, it's incredible. Because maybe Sanjay Gupta thought that they were going to have a nice little conversation about why people need to wear masks. I don't know what he was thinking going on Joe Rogan's show. But Joe is mad. And good for Joe. Joe Rogan asked Sanjay Gupta, does it bother you that CNN lied about me? Cut 55.
Does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied? Just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer.
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before coming on your podcast.
But they did it with such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
They did. I watched.
Gorgeous. I want to frame that. Because we see this little shriveling of a weak human, Sanjay Gupta. I should have asked. I didn't know. You understand that these media reporters have never been called out before? I think Sanjay Gupta was there to promote a book. I don't think it's doing very well after that. I think he has a new book, like COVID War Zero or something. I really think it's called World War COVID. I think that's the name of the book. And so CNN, he's the medical guy there. And so Joe says, you're the medical guy there. What do you mean? And Joe Rogan doesn't give up. He's a dog with a bone, everybody. He says, wait a second. It should bother you. It's a lie on your network, and it's your conscience of it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Trying to reach this deal to spend about another $2 trillion. That makes a total of an extraordinary $5 trillion in spending this year. Inflation, of course, is growing at its fastest pace in 30 years. If the American economy is already overheating, is spending even more money potentially pouring gas on the inflation fire?
Well, the additional spending in the infrastructure package and in the Build Back Better package, both of those are spending over 10 years, not in a single year. The rescue package did involve substantial spending this year. And let's remember that a benefit of that package is that unemployment has declined to 4.8%, that Americans tell us they feel confident they can find jobs. Now, the size of the labor force has declined. It's not moved back to pre-pandemic levels, in part because of COVID, because of health concerns, because of child care concerns, school concerns, and so many firms are experiencing a shortage of labor. The COVID shock to the economy has caused disruptions that we'll be working through over the next year. And of course, Americans haven't seen inflation like we've experienced recently in a long time.
Yeah.
But as we get back to normal, expect that to end. And already on a monthly basis, the inflation numbers are way down below their peaks.
We probably will have a wealth tax, but again, it's only 10% of what we need. The other things are more like $800 billion versus $200 billion. But we can use them another time. They don't go away as a source of revenue to pay for how we go forward. And we want to pay for
But you said you probably will have a wealth tax.
Well, that is, we'll see. We haven't seen the bill yet.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Leo Hanian, professor of economics at UCLA, now joins us once again. Professor, thank you so much for coming on.
Larry, it's good to be back.
Professor, I don't know where to start. Janet Yellen says that, this multi-trillion-dollar so-called infrastructure package is spread out over 10 years, not to worry, because after all, the inflation is going to be transient.
You know, Larry, it's interesting that the Biden administration, particularly Yellen, and also the Federal Reserve System, particularly Jerome Powell, really got the inflation numbers wrong. They were saying there was going to be 1 or 2 months, don't worry, this will be over before you know it, and it hasn't turned out that way at all. In my opinion, they've really lost credibility regarding that issue, and it's so important because Yellen is the Secretary of Treasury and Powell is the head of the Federal Reserve System. So if you think they can't figure out what's going to be going on in inflation 2-3 months down the road, it's really a big problem for the country, big problem for economic policymakers. It's a big problem for people who live on fixed incomes. I don't see inflation going down anytime soon. And as you know, it's because Washington has dumped just tons of cash into the economy, and inflation occurs when the creation of cash exceeds the growth rate of production. And we aren't producing as much as we could because a lot of those, so-called stimulus funds were in the form of programs that pay people really to stay home and not produce. So we've not only really expanded how much cash there is out there, but we've incentivized people and businesses not to produce, and that's just an enormous problem that we're facing right now. Professor,
you've been on this program for years and years, and for years and years you warned us about this inflation. The numbers kept, in my opinion, lower than what you and I both thought, but you said, and I felt, it's just a matter of time. That time's here.
The time is here, yes. The time is here, and people in Washington think that this enormous inflationary ocean liner is going to turn around, is going to stop on a dime and make a 180-degree turnaround, and that's just not the way it works. And what's really worrisome is that this is just tried and true old-fashioned economics that we've known for decades and decades, and I just don't see where they were coming from in imagining that this was going to be 1 or 2 or 3 months. We're way past 1, 2, 3 months, and there's really no end certainly in the near term that we're going to see in terms of higher inflation.
My guest is UCLA economics professor Leo Hanian. Janet Yellen at the end of the clip said, well, we're looking at month-to-month numbers and they're trending down. Is that true?
Well, I'm not sure what numbers she is looking at. The real problem that we're facing right now is that the recovery in this economy, I think, given the policies we have in place right now, I think the recovery is about over. Unemployment's not going to go any lower. Productivity is not growing quickly. We have all these supply chain disruptions. We're going to slower economic growth, and any time you see slower economic growth, you're going to have more inflation than what would have occurred if growth was robust. And this is the exact opposite of how the Fed thinks. The Fed thinks that to reduce inflation, you slow down the economy. Well, no, we have low inflation when we have a rapidly growing economy. It's actually the mirror image of what they have been pitching for years and years. And the Fed has now, for decades and decades, has been making very poor prognostications for inflation. So, I think they've lost awful lot of their credibility in this regard.
Now they're talking about a $1.5 trillion, then was $2 trillion, first was $3.5 trillion. Why are we talking about an infrastructure stimulus plan at all?
Larry, you and I'd like to think that the tax dollars we pay would go for building infrastructure and for fixing roads that are 50 and 60 years old. The idea, there's really two myths here. One is that the federal government needs to step in and start just, throwing $100 billion here, $1 trillion there, to quote, goose the economy or to quote stimulate the economy. That is just a myth. That is not the policy we need to have in place right now. Any idea of fiscal restraint, of reasonable, I'd love to see if there's a pair of reasonable eyes on the budget in D.C., because people are talking about these numbers as if, hey, no big deal. Sure, $2 trillion, $3 trillion, hey, we need to do it. Of course we need to do it. This is just, I'm at a loss for words. I've never seen anything like this in the 30 years I've been teaching economics. The lack of fiscal discipline, the lack of restraint, the lack of responsibility, and even any acknowledgement that there's a problem and that we really need to get the federal budget under control. There's just not any discussion whatsoever from the Democratic Party along these lines.
Professor Leo Henning is my guest. Professor, don't go away. When we come back, I want to talk to you about the proposed wealth tax. What is a wealth tax? Will it do what the proponents expect it to do? Leo Henning is my guest, professor of economics from UCLA. I'm Larry Elder.
How 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
Go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Bank transactions. The Democrats want the IRS to snoop around and check out what you're doing if you have a bank account with more than $600 in it. They want to get involved in your PayPal transactions. You're sending money to your kids. The IRS wants to know all about that. They think they can drag more money out of us. Like the IRS. And the Democrats' scheme is we got to figure a way to pay for all this crap. All this spending the Democrats want. Okay, here's the way we can do it. Let's go audit a bunch of people and let's go check out grandma sending $601 to their grandkid via PayPal. And when a reporter pointed out to Pelosi that Americans are livid about this, and is it going to stay in your reconciliation bill? Pelosi had a very predictable answer.
Yes, there are concerns that some people have, but if people are breaking the law and not paying their taxes, one way to track them is through the banking measure. I think 600, but that's a negotiation that will go on as to what the amount is. But yes.
Yes. You think a multi-millionaire like Nancy Pelosi cares about a hardworking person being tracked by the IRS? if you have a transaction over $600. Yeah, some people are calling the bank. You better call your bank. You got a relationship with a local banker? You better call him or her, and you better demand there be a pushback.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
57 Muslim states in the world, one Jewish state.
Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
There's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward.
When Wright came in this morning, he wants to fight you.
No one expected this out of him.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Look, David, we have transient inflation. Annual inflation in last month, according to core CPI, was above 10%. Majority of that is surely transient. We've got used car prices. We've got other examples that people cite that are clearly transient. But it is an elementary fallacy to confuse the idea that we have some transient inflation with the false proposition that all the inflation is transient and we have nothing to be concerned about. If you look at things that are longer lasting, labor shortages, pervasive. If you look at things like the largest component of the cost of living index, housing is on fire. As you know, as your listeners know, a majority of houses are selling above their asking prices. In many parts of the country, housing inflation has been close to 20%, the vast majority of which has not yet shown up in any index.
Well, let me first say that, of course, the Federal Reserve, I would point you to them to speak to or provide analysis or speculation on anything as it relates to inflation or the impact of certain external actions. I will say, as we've said in here before, but we'll reiterate that, of course, we take the possibility of inflation quite seriously. As you know, actions that have been taken to date or proposals that have been made, most economic analysts believe that it will have a temporary or transitory impact. But in terms of analysis on current events, I would point you to the Federal Reserve.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. My guest is economics professor from UCLA, Leo Haney. And Lee, that first speaker was Larry Summers, the former economic advisor to Barack Obama, all saying this is not transitory.
That's correct. It's not transitory. Mm-hmm. We have a real inflationary problem, and the big issue that he pointed out to is that we've just baby boom generation is growing older. They're dropped out of the labor force. We don't have as many younger people entering the labor force. We have a lot of people sitting on the sidelines because we paid them to do that. And that, to generate productive capacity, we have to have a lot more people at work. And having people sitting at home and not producing is our enemy. That is in part what drives inflation up. And his remarks about housing are also correct. This is not a transitory problem. And I can't imagine how anybody in Washington talking about inflation has any credibility left after the mistakes they've made in these predictions.
Professor, what do you make of the fact that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has an economics degree from a college in Boston?
I don't know if I'm supposed to, if I can say the name of the university or not, but about 2 months after she joined the House of Representatives and started saying just outlandish, comical things about economics, a friend of mine who teaches at the university she graduated from said, Lee, she graduated in international relations, not in economics. Believe me, we would have taught her better than that.
Interesting.
So I don't know if she's still sticking to the economic story or not, but there's just an awful lot of gibberish when she talks about economic problems, inflation, and hey, let's just go out and spend a lot of money, and we'll worry about that later. It's shocking. I don't know what's happened to the Democratic Party in the sense that you go back 50 years. You had Jimmy Carter, who had fiscal discipline. Older listeners remember the zero-based budgeting, where you had to justify from ground zero a budget you wanted and make a pitch for that. You go back to Bill Clinton, who talked about the end of big government is over. We need to give families choice in terms of the schools that they can send their kids. People like Clinton and Carter today I really don't think there's room for them even in the Democratic Party. There's just no sense that the left-hand side of the accounting statement, the right-hand side of the accounting statement have got to come together. And if the left-hand side is too big, then, well, let's just go to the right-hand side and pretend it's just as big, and we'll talk about raising taxes on the wealthy, and they'll pay for all this stuff. Well,
wow.
How long have we been hearing about that?
Professor, just a few seconds left in this segment. Didn't Jimmy Carter even appoint Paul Volcker, the head of the Fed?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and he helped to wring out inflation. Professor, please don't go away. I still want to talk to you about the wealth tax. We haven't gotten to that yet. Also, I want to ask you about the price of an average home here in California. I've heard it is a minimum of 150% above the national average, but I've also heard it's even higher than that. I want to ask you which one is accurate. Now, the best kept secret is out. Like me, hundreds of thousands of people have said goodbye to their overpriced Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile plans and switched over to Pure Talk. That's because you get the same great coverage on the same great 5G network as one of the big guys, but for about half the cost. The average family saves over $800 a year. What are you waiting for? Get this, you can keep your number and keep your phone, or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. Get unlimited talks, texts, and 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month, or if you want unlimited data, you can still save a bundle. Look, I'm a Pure Talk customer. I like the way they treat their customers. Plus, they have a 30-day risk-free guarantee, so you literally have nothing to lose. So, from your cell phone, here's what you need to do. Dial pound 250 and say Larry Elder, and you'll save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, say Larry Elder, pound 250 and say Larry Elder, because Pure Talk is simply smarter wireless. My guest, Professor Lee Ohanian. Wealth Tax, we come back. I'm Larry Elder.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Bank transactions. The Democrats want the IRS to snoop around and check out what you're doing if you have a bank account with more than $600 in it. They want to get involved in your PayPal transactions. You're sending money to your kids. The IRS wants to know all about that. They think they can drag more money out of us. Like the IRS And the Democrats' scheme is we got to figure a way to pay for all this crap. All this spending the Democrats want. Okay, here's the way we can do it. Let's go audit a bunch of people and let's go check out grandma sending $601 to their grandkid via PayPal. And when a reporter pointed out to Pelosi that Americans are livid about this, and is it going to stay in your reconciliation bill? Pelosi had a very predictable answer.
Yes, there are concerns that some people have, but if people are breaking the law and not paying their taxes, one way to track them is through the banking measure. I think 600, but that's a negotiation that will go on as to what the amount is. But yes.
Yes. You think a multi-millionaire like Nancy Pelosi cares about a hardworking person being tracked by the IRS? If you have a transaction over $600, yes, some people are calling the bank. You better call your bank. You got a relationship with a local banker? You better call him or her, and you better demand there be a pushback.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Larry, my name is Ron. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'd like to hear a lot more about this 90,000 new IRS people that are going to be hired to peek on everybody's bank accounts. I think that's an absolutely huge issue. It's being overlooked. That enters a whole new world as far as how we conduct our business, etc. A complete intrusion on the public, and it should be killed for that reason only. The whole bill, just for that one only.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. My last segment with Professor of Economics from UCLA, Leo Hanian. Professor, you have talked a lot about the price of housing here in California, and I believe your estimate is that the average price of a home in California is 50% more than it otherwise would be if it were not for laws like the California Environmental Quality Act. I've also heard that the average price of a home in California is 150% above the national average. I've also heard it's 250% above the national average. Which number is right?
Well, Larry, during the break, I looked up. I did the calculation. Right now, it's about 170%. California single-family home median price is about 810,000, and the rest of the country is about 300,000. Okay. So it's about 170% right now. And there's really no reasonable economic explanation for why California housing is so expensive other than really badly designed economic policies that drives up the cost of construction, makes it very, very difficult to build housing in California.
The wealth tax.
The wealth tax, another badly designed policy, one that many countries in Europe have tried and almost all have walked away from because it is incredibly difficult to enforce, and it doesn't bring in all that much revenue. But as we spoke about in the previous segment, Washington is spending so much money, they've got to look someplace to get that. And they've got, the Democratic Party has certain sacred cows they're not going to try to get money from. So let's go out and try to get money from Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, or Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla. Those guys have rich tax accounts and tax attorneys, and hey, they're not paying, quote, their fair share. So the wealth tax is really aimed at those kind of people. It if it is passed, I hope it isn't, but if it is, it won't really bring much in, and it's really more of a political grandstand. It's really trying to paint Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Bill Gates as the enemies. Why aren't they paying more in taxes? And I think they're just trying to make some political hay out of this. It's not a reasonable approach to funding the government, and I just wish more voters would hold them accountable and say, look, you're going to live within your budget. And if you can't do it, we'll vote in people who can figure out how to live within a reasonable budget. So Pelosi is talking about it. AOC is in love with the idea. I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think in the Senate, I don't think Manchin will vote for it. But I really hope it doesn't come to pass. It would be a terrible economic idea.
Professor, during my campaign for governor, the issue of the minimum wage came up because I've written negatively about it. Had nothing whatever to do with the campaign. The campaign was about crime and about the way he shut down the state and denied kids a whole year of in-person education, the rise of homelessness, the fact that people are leaving, poor fire management, poor energy management, water management. But they kept bringing up minimum wage because I said, and have written, that the minimum wage should be zero. So I give an interview with this reporter, young lady, and I said, have you ever taken an economics course? She said, yes. I said, can you name an economist who you like, who you respect? Silence. I said, you can't name an economist? She said, well, the one I took my course with. I said, what is his or her name? I don't remember. I said, do you know who Adam Smith is? No. Do you know who Paul Krugman is? No. I said, Paul Krugman is probably the most famous economist on the planet because he has a column with the New York Times. Even he wrote negatively about the minimum wage until later on did a 180. I said, you know who Milton Friedman is? She said, no. I said, Milton Friedman said that the minimum wage was perhaps the most anti-Negro law in the statute books. You can't name a single economist, yet you write about business and the economy? And she was not happy with that. Not too surprisingly, that interview never aired anywhere. But
Larry, I mean, kudos to you for bringing to your campaign all of the problems that California faces, all of the economic issues. You brought sensible solutions, and I thought you ran a great campaign. And on the Democratic side, they didn't have a response to housing's too expensive. The Environmental Quality Act is not functioning effectively. Homelessness, these are problems that have been with the Democratic Party now for decades. And so what did they go with? They went with things like, Larry Elder doesn't want the minimum wage. I recoiled when I read the L.A. Times and they called you what was it,
the black face of white supremacy. Yeah.
I wrote a couple columns about that. I found that just so disturbing and so offending, so offensive that was I kept thinking, is this the best they can do? Play the race card against the black guy and call him a white guy? I mean, what kind of world are we living in now? Anyway, congratulations on running a great campaign. As you know, I was behind you, and the state of California would be much better off had you prevailed. But the Democratic Party ran essentially a dirty campaign. Dirty from the standpoint of not acknowledging the problems that they've created, not acknowledge that they don't have solutions, and trying to find misdirections and misfires to obfuscate what is going on in a state that's it's just a shame.
You know, we only have about 45 seconds left in this section, Professor. The other thing, too, that really galled me is the opposition to school choice. 75% of black boys cannot read at state levels of proficiency. Half of all third graders cannot read at state levels of proficiency. 80% of the kids in our government schools are black and brown, and these are the people that the left claims to care about.
Exactly right. The head of the United Teachers of Los Angeles, and the reason I bring this up is the school unions are a huge problem, a huge impediment to creating school choice. The head of the UTLA is seeking out those who oppose her, those who want school choice, those who want schools to be opened up, those who want more rigorous math and science classes, those who are against her. She's using funds to find out what race they are, what countries they're from, and turning this into a racial war and not facing up to the fact that they are not delivering to the most vulnerable kids. Hispanic kids, black kids, kids in poor families. Okay. It is a crying shame. And again, this is the Democratic Party problem that they will not address.
Professor, we're going to have to leave it there. Professor, as always, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you, Larry. Take care.
You got it. Relief Factor, $19.95 for the 3-week quick start. That's less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. If you're suffering from back, shoulder, neck, foot, knee pain from exercise, or just getting older, consider ordering the 3-week quick start. Over 70% of those who order it go on to order more. 4 ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free. ReliefFactor.com. ReliefFactor.com. Or call 800-500-8384. 800-500-8384.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Judge Thomas, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
57 Muslim states in the world, 1 Jewish state.
Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
There's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward.
When Wright came in this morning, he wants to fight you.
No one expected this out of him.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
How 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
Go to salemnow.com.
Freedom of speech and freedom of assembly being eliminated. What does that do to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as well as a lot of these organizations that used to feel like they had the right to organize? Thank you. Have a good day.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Next hour, we're going to speak to a firefighter who refuses to get vaccinated, would rather lose his job than become vaccinated. We're also going to be talking about the cancellation or the attempted cancellation of Dave Chappelle for his controversial special called The Closer. All of that and more, 888-971-SAGE. Now, there's no doubt about it. We're facing a culture war in this country as left and right go to battle. As a listener to this program, you know who the warriors are in this culture war, and we need you to nominate them in Salem's annual Culture Warrior of the Year Awards. Just go to my website right now, click on the banner, and you can nominate Culture Warrior of the Year. Ray is in Arlington, Texas. Ray, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it.
All right, well, welcome back, Larry, and congratulations on a successful campaign.
Thank you, sir.
California, they definitely need some diversity in thought, for sure.
Thank you.
But one of the things as I listen to you, and you know, as you talk about the police and the support for the police, which I'm not saying we should support the police, but I never really hear you discuss how you would handle police misconduct. because almost every single black male that I know, including myself, have been victims of police misconduct. And the way you speak makes it appear that we're liars. It's systemic. It's something that happens all the time, but I never hear you talk about how you'll address it, to make sure that police are held accountable. What would you do to rogue police officers?
Where have I said that all of us are lying? When have I suggested that?
No, when you say that it's no systemic racism in policing, but when you look and you just poll almost every black male that I know has been, especially from Chicago, that I grew up with, were victims of police brutality and misconduct. They feel as though they can get away with that stuff, and because they don't do those same tactics in black neighborhoods.
Well, I think you need to kind of talk about when and where you're making the argument about systemic racism. I'm in Los Angeles. And right now, Ray, the police department mirrors the demographic diversity of the city. The city is approximately 40% Hispanic. The police department, 40% Hispanic, 30% white. It's around 10% or so black, as is the police department. The rest Asian American, as is the police department. Let me just finish. Probably the biggest critic of the police is a woman named Constance Rice. She's related to Condi Rice. And she, over the decades, filed all sorts of lawsuits, made all sorts of accusations about the police. In the last 10, 15 years, she says the police has changed dramatically, and it is no longer systemically racist. So, Ray, the police department is very different from the police department that you and I experienced when we grew up. I think it's unfair to act like there's been no changes. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
To hear the White House press secretary blame Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott and other Republican governors for playing politics by trying to preserve jobs, not let people get fired over the vaccine mandate. What's the political gain for a governor to stand up to a tyrannical machine and say, you're not going to fire people because they don't want to put a medicine in their arm? You can't try to draw that line in the sand and say, well, the government shouldn't do it, but businesses can. We're either going to fire people over a personal medical decision or we're not. You're splitting hairs when you say, well, now the government, Gary Kelly flat out said, we don't want to do this at Southwest Airlines. He knows that this is a work stoppage. What's happening in Southwest? It isn't weather. They're not having any computer glitches. They got people working who aren't going to show up, and they're going to try to send Southwest a message. And Gary Kelly, the CEO of Southwest, admitted it by saying, we don't want this. Biden's making us do it. The government's making us do it. These zealots in charge, the kind of tyrannical governors we saw putting lines in the Home Depot, and you can go to the garden section, but you can't go to the towel section, and all this crap. Put a mask on to walk to your table and take the mask off when you sit at the table. Like you can't spread COVID at the table, but you can when you're walking to the men's room. Are you kidding me? Would you stop it? And worst of all, forcing people to take a vaccine or get fired.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
The image of Superman in a homosexual kiss. Because DC Comics, I guess they don't want to sell comics. And now the new Superman, the son of Kal-El, is going to come out as gay, or as Jeff pointed out, I guess he's bi, right? Whatever, who cares? But here's the bottom line. This is beautiful. I hope Media Matters is writing this one up. Hey, Zachy Poo, are you typing? How many homosexuals, how many gay people are there in society? 1%, 1.5%. Let's be generous. Let's double it. 3%! 3% of America are gay. And the gay people I know, they don't rub it in your face. It's just a thing they do. It's private. It's not an agenda they got to ram in your face. Say, look, this is me. It's the radical fraction of that 2%. The loud screamers. The identity politics harridans. So why are you trying to placate a fraction of 2%? It's dumb business sense, really. Means you're weak. It's not courageous to have a gay Superman. It's the opposite. You're a panderer. R.I.P. Commander Bond. R.I.P. Kal-El. Rest in peace, Superman.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
Sanjay Gupta is used to the CNN way of doing things, which is, kind of kid gloves. And Joe Rogan said, no. You're in the lion's den now. You see, this is a place where people have testosterone, wisdom, and patriotism. You work for CNN where none of those things exist.
You're probably the only one at CNN that's glad.
No. We're not.
The rest of them are all lying about me taking horse medication. And we should talk about that.
That bothered you.
It should bother you, too. They're lying at your network about people taking human drugs versus drugs for veterinary.
Calling it a horse dewormer is not a flattering thing. I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing... That's a lie that they're conscious of. It's not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
I love it. Rarely do you see justice happen in real time. Rarely. I'm a big fan of the book of Job. And one of the things I like about the book of Job is that it's real. It's authentic. It's kind of why do bad things happen to good people? That's what the book of Job is about. In the second book of Plato's Republic, it talks about justice, and actually the narrative frames that good things happen to people that do good and bad things happen to things that do bad, and rarely do you actually ever get to see justice play out in real time. That's justice. Sanjay Gupta having to sit down for 2 hours of Joe Rogan being like, it should bother you. It's a conscious lie where you're saying that I should take a horse dewormer. And Sanjay Gupta said, man, that really bothered you. Yeah, it was the #1 news story on the planet that Joe Rogan is going around to Preakness or the Kentucky Derby with his hands open asking for medication.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Americans still have enough fighting spirit. We're not...
Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one, too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
877-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Next segment, we're going to speak to a Beverly Hills firefighter who would rather lose his job than become vaccinated. All of that and more. Later on, we're going to talk about Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle might be canceled. Dave Chappelle is a comic. He did a special for Netflix called The Closer, in which he made a number of jokes that were perceived to be disparaging to the transsexual community. Never mind all the jokes he said about white people. The majority of the audience was white. And they're just kicking back, laughing as he calling them racist, subtly, not so subtly, directly and indirectly. Oh, that's hysterical. But you say something about the trans community or the gay community. Oh, all of that and more. 888-971-SAG. Well, Joe Biden at it again. Now, you know Joe Biden has many times has talked about how he was involved in the civil rights struggle and that he used to go to black churches and strategize how to organize, how to desegregate movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware when he was a teenager. And it turns out, according to the New York Times, he didn't do squat. They investigated, couldn't find a single instance where Joe Biden tried to organize to desegregate a restaurant or a movie theater in Delaware, nor could they find where he was going to the black church. And he would say for decades, I grew up in the black church. And when the New York Times debunked it, they said his aides gently reminded him to stop saying it, and Biden kept saying it anyway. Just the other day.
And they looked at me and said, Joe, you should run. I said, but I feel strongly about all these issues, but I got involved in the civil rights movement and the war. He said, Joe, you should do it.
No, you didn't get involved in the civil rights movement, Joe. You didn't do anything. He's lying. And he said it over and over and over again for decades. And then told not to say it and says it again. Said he was arrested in South Africa with Andrew Young, the former United Nations ambassador, attempting to see Nelson Mandela when he was behind bars. Zero evidence he ever did it. They went to Andrew Young and said, did you and Joe Biden ever get arrested trying to see Nelson Mandela? He said, nope, never happened. Biden said it again. Now he's repeating that lie about the Amtrak story. That some guy that worked at Amtrak congratulated him on traveling over 2 million miles on Amtrak, except the guy had retired years before he allegedly told Joe Biden, wow, you did 2 million miles on Amtrak. And also Biden has given different times where this allegedly happened, said it happened in the 7th year of his tenure. He was going back to visit his sick mother, except she died years earlier. So maybe he meant he was going to visit her gravesite. I don't know. Now he is admitting to elementary school kids that he tries to avoid speaking to reporters.
You know, when you're president, you see all these people here? They're with you all the time. They get to ask you all kinds of questions, and you try to figure out how you can avoid answering them sometimes.
Here he is admitting to elementary school kids. You got all these reporters following you around all the time, and they ask you a bunch of questions. You have to kind of try and figure out how you're not going to answer them.
Hey, guys, thanks for letting me come in your classroom.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And Mr. President, you ought to talk to me about the presidency. You know, when you're president, you see all these people here? They're with you all the time. They get to ask you all kinds of questions, and you try to figure out how you can avoid answering them sometimes. I'm not supposed to take any questions, but go ahead.
Mr. President, on Afghanistan?
I'm not going to answer Afghanistan now.
Can you get the
Okay.
Afghanistan.
I'm not going to answer any more questions on Afghanistan. Look, it's 4th of July.
On the economy.
I'm concerned that you guys are asking me questions that I'll answer next week.
Press, let's go. We're moving out. Press, let's go. Press, let's go, you guys. Come on, press. We're going to move out. Let's go, press. Let's go. Come on, press. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Crisis at the border, sir. Let's go, you guys. Come on. Come on, let's go.
Thank you all very much.
On the status of getting Americans out of Afghanistan.
Mr. President, what about booster
President,
shots?
moving
What
out
about
from
the confusion
Afghanistan.
about booster shots, sir?
You guys are bad. I'm not supposed to be answering all these questions. I'm supposed to leave. Anyway.
I'm not supposed to be answering questions. My staff, I'm going to get in trouble with my staff. You're the president. They work for you. Oh. By the way, yesterday Joe Biden coughed in his hands. He wasn't wearing a mask and then proceeded to shake hands with people. I'll give you a play-by-play. He just coughed after he gave a speech. Then he walked down. There was a row of people there. They weren't wearing masks either. And he proceeded to shake their hands. Isn't that a violation of CDC protocol? I don't know. Now, last hour we were talking about what Obama said to Bill O'Reilly about school vouchers and about the Milwaukee school program.
The secret to getting a good job is education, and in these chaotic families, the children aren't well educated because it isn't encouraged at home as much as it is in other precincts. Now, school vouchers is a way to level the playing field. Why do you oppose school vouchers when it would give poor people a chance to go to better schools?
Actually, every study that's been done on school vouchers, Bill, says that it has very limited impact, if any. It has been tried. It's been
every
tried in
study?
Milwaukee. It's been tried right here in D.C.
And it worked here.
No, actually it didn't. When you end up taking a look at it, it didn't actually make that much of a difference. So what we have been supportive of is something called charters, which within the public school system gives the opportunity for creative experiments by teachers, by principals to start schools that have a different approach. And
you wouldn't revisit that? I just think I used to be teaching a Catholic school, and I just know that that would help kids.
I've taken a look at it. As a general proposition, vouchers has not significantly improved the performance of kids that are in these poorest communities.
They get them better
some charters are doing great. Some Catholic schools do a great job, but what we have to do is make sure every child.
I got three more questions.
He specifically said that I looked at the Milwaukee study. Nothing happened. Here is Patrick Wolf, professor of education, University of Arkansas, done more work on the impact of school choice than anybody else.
Wolf, who led the study, presented his findings in the school choice program. Dr. Patrick Wolf, who led the study, presented his findings at a breakfast in Milwaukee on Monday.
I don't take a political position on school vouchers and school choice. I basically just uncover evidence about the effects they have.
The study compared Milwaukee public schools with choice schools in the area. It found little difference in math scores, but reading scores at the choice schools beat those at public schools.
So a bit of a positive voucher effect in reading, no effect in math. We do caution people, though, because the final year, the voucher schools were subject to a testing accountability program where they had to report the test scores of their voucher students publicly. By named school. And so we think this combination of the high-stakes accountability program for the voucher schools and the voucher program itself led to a surge in reading achievement that was reflected in our results.
Dr. Wolf stresses his study is longitudinal, which means you can't draw conclusions based off of one set of tests or one point in time.
But with a snapshot, all you see is where students are. You really can't determine how they got there and whether or not it was the voucher program that produced their achievement levels or their background factors and this sorting and shifting of students across MPS or MPCP. So those snapshot studies are very limited in what they tell you. Our longitudinal study tells you a lot more. It tells you actually the extent to which access to the voucher program made a difference in the student outcomes.
He found the most impressive results were where the students go on after graduation.
What we're seeing pretty strong evidence that school vouchers have positive effects on educational attainment. That's how far students go in school. So here in Milwaukee, we saw that the voucher students graduated from high school at a rate 4 to 7 percentage points higher than similar MPS students. They enrolled in college at a rate 4 to 7 percentage points higher, which is a big deal because only about 25% of these students go to college. So a 4 to 7 percentage point difference, that's like a 20% difference.
Firefighter would rather quit than be vaccinated. All of that and more. I'm Larry Elder. Josh, nice to see you.
Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
That's kind of my shtick. traveling the country, going to high school and college campuses, talking about how we need to properly educate young people about American history, civics, the development of the character, understanding how parents should have a primary role in their children's education, trying to have young people understand that there is objective truth, educate them about metaphysics and a transcendent order and meaning. These are things that I've been warning about for years, and I don't want to say that I was ignored. That would not be fair. Conservative base always took it seriously. People considered to be a top 10 issue.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This White House has absolutely no idea what is happening in America. It is completely divorced from reality, devoid of any understanding. And you know, they always say that the organization reflects the leader. Well, they've got a feckless, pathetic, completely out-to-lunch leader, and that has completely permeated this White House, if you can call it that.
So at this point, it's hard to imagine how much worse the situation could get. In that case, the question I always return to, and you are a guy who's worked on so many campaigns, not just in the White House, your political sense is fine-tuned. Is there not a point, if you look at the cargo ships off LA, you look at the 2 million illegal aliens, you look at the 4 million people who resigned from their jobs last year, you look at the inflation, you look at everything to do with national security, with Afghanistan. Is there no point at which Biden becomes an albatross around the neck of the Democrats, or are they just too afraid to have the cackler in the Oval?
It's happened already. Look at Virginia.
Yeah.
Terry McAuliffe is losing to Youngkin in a race where Biden won by 10 points.
But hang on, Boris.
Okay?
Boris, it's not just that, you know, Youngkin has a shot. Did you ever think that Terry McAuliffe would actually publicly state that the Democrat president is the reason that he might lose Virginia?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
To get fired for this?
Yes, I am. I hope I don't, obviously, but you know, I really believe I'm doing the right thing.
Police Sergeant Rick Nigro says he won't be forced to get a COVID shot, defying the mayor's vaccine mandate that went into effect over the weekend.
There's too much government control in that. You're going to tell me what I'm going to put in my body. That's my choice. And the result is you're going to terminate me?
Well, it's not going good. We're witnessing what the city normally does, where they direct bargain their employees, completely skirting labor law, and they have a history of doing so. What we're trying to do, this isn't about vaccinated or unvaccinated. We have no interest in segregating our members or, frankly, play the game that's happening in society. This is strictly about standing up to save jobs because, to your point, we've lost so many people because of the political betrayal from our elected officials in this city. Over 350 cops gone because we were once the modeled reformed agency, and then after Floyd, these same politicians who invoked this mandate ran away from us as fast as they could for political reasons. Now it's our people are desperate to have their voice heard.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. You can watch the show and watch my guest. He's in studio on Larry Elder Show on youtube.com/Larry Elder Show Radio. My guest is Josh Satley. He has been a firefighter paramedic at the city of Beverly Hills for 11 years, married to his best friend, Brittany, for 18 years. You have 4 kids, so you have a little bit of overhead there.
A little bit.
Josh, thank you for coming in. And thank you for what you do. You have a very, very difficult job as a firefighter paramedic. I used to interview the former police chief of the L.A. Police Department, Bernard Parks, once a month for years. And he said, people think that we have a difficult job. It's these firefighters. They're inhaling all this bad stuff, and their health is far more compromised than our health. I know you're a paramedic, but you know what I'm talking about. And again, I salute you for what you do and for what you're doing for your community. Tell me, why aren't you willing to take the vaccine?
Well, I feel like what they're doing is holding my job over my head and wanting me to trade in my freedoms to do that. And I'm not willing to do that. I'm essentially being fired for the same moral principles they hired me for, my honor and my integrity. I'm not willing to trade those in just for a sense of security and my job. I mean, I love what I do. All firefighters are very proud of what we do. It's the best job in the world. I love it. I love going in there every day and helping the citizens of Beverly Hills and helping the community. But something that me and my family are unwilling to do is trade in who I am and trade in my beliefs and what I believe is right. I'm not going to do it.
I assume that you've applied for a religious exemption?
I did.
And
it was denied without probable cause or reason. And in fact,
they gave you no reason at all. Just
no reason at all. They arbitrarily selected a few to approve and a few to deny. So there was 22 originally that were submitted. They accepted 14 of those on a 30-day expiration. So they're going to be reviewed at the end of the month, as if their religious beliefs will be changed.
To find out how convicted you are about your beliefs.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the test? How do they determine whether or not you have a sincere religious belief or not? What do they do?
Great question.
Find out if you went to church? Find out if you have a Bible in your library? What do they do?
Nope. So we had investigations. I call them interrogations because that's how it felt, the amount of stress we were under. So it was the last week of September. They sat us down in an interview.
Who's they?
This is the head of HR and her attorney, and then we had our association attorney in there, and he objected, of course, to all and any questioning that was unlawful. They said, that's fine, yeah, go ahead and answer. And I said, well, I have a question, and I would like to know what criteria you're using to judge our religious exemptions, right? Is there case law? Is there some kind of guidebook you guys are using? And they kind of laughed and said, no, nothing like that. We just want to ask you about your beliefs. I said, great, this should be a good opportunity then to be able to tell them my beliefs. I've grown up very strong Christian throughout my whole life, and I explained to them all those things, but yet when it came down to it on the 30th, late that night, they denied me, and there was no justification or reason. And in fact, in the same email, the head of HR said, if you feel like you're being discriminated against, you can file a complaint with me, who is the one who denied it, who was the one in the interview. So it just makes no sense.
Now, were you asked what specifically about your religion says that you ought not be vaccinated or protects you from the mandate that you be vaccinated? Did they ask what part of Scripture? Did they ask anything like that?
They just said very, very generically, yeah, what about your deeply held religious beliefs preclude you? And for me personally, is my personal relationship with my Savior and my God, and through prayer. And I prayed about this in the beginning, and for me, I've had a very strong feeling that it's not for me, and not to take it. And then every other reason that came after that was really just like an affirmation of my confirmation through prayer. And I know a lot of other interviews were very similar to that one, and those ones were approved. So I don't know if I didn't show enough emotion, I didn't cry enough, or whatever it was that determined whether I wasn't deeply held enough,
My guest is Josh Satley. He is a firefighter paramedic at the city of Beverly Hills. So you talked to your colleagues whose religious exemptions were approved and asked them what was the difference between theirs and yours?
I did, and I listened to many of them because we recorded a lot of them. So I listened to a lot of those. And there was a lot that were very similar to mine, and there was other ones where they mentioned fetal cells, or they mentioned other things, obviously, the other arguments of why it precludes them according to their religion. And to me, there was no rhyme or reason as to who was accepted and who was denied. I'm not going to argue and say I'm the most religious person there, but they didn't ask anything about really my background or my faith at all.
Mm-hmm. How big is your department?
We're 81 guys, so we're a very small department. I know it doesn't just affect us. Obviously, this is a nationwide problem that every department, every agency is having. But we're very small. But the wonderful thing about our department is that there are a lot of really strong Christian men who believe in God, and I think that's what was one of the amazing things about the department. I have a lot of like-minded individuals, and the level of service that we offered the community, I know, was directly related to that belief in Christ. We would go above and beyond on a lot of calls for a lot of individuals. I remember leaving, we would do dishes for elderly people. We would cook them meals or bring them food or other things that we could do just to be a service to the community.
Josh, you said 81 guys. Are you all men?
No, there are 2 females. Yep.
Either of them apply for a religious exemption?
No, they did not.
What percentage of the 81 are refusing to be vaccinated?
So originally in August, we had about 30. There was around 30 guys that were refusing to be vaccinated.
Has anybody caved?
Yeah, unfortunately, after that night, there was 14 accepted with a 30-day exemption. And then there was 8 of us who were denied. 2 of those people were able to get medical exemptions through their doctors for their own reasons. And then there were 6 of us left. I was the only one that said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hold the line. And then 5 of those individuals went under duress and did take the vaccine.
888-971-SAGE is our number, 888-971-7243. If you'd like to call in and ask Josh a question, why can't you just be tested once a week or twice a week or what have you, rather than to be mandated to take the vaccine?
That was one of the differences of the LA County health mandate compared to the state mandate. That was the biggest difference. So the LA County mandate made it more restrictive, where they removed the ability for you to decline and then just test as an option. You're allowed to test if you have a religious or a medical exemption, and that's the way they put it forth. And once you test, you're supposed to test once weekly. Our department is actually testing twice weekly, and then you have to wear a mask, whether an N95 or just a surgical mask. That will suffice, and then you should be able to still be in contact with the community, just like we've been doing since the beginning of the pandemic. However, our department is taking upon themselves to add their own policies and their own draconian rules as far as segregating the crews. So those that have those exemptions are not allowed to respond to EMS calls.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Josh Satley, Larry Elder, give us a call.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This White House has absolutely no idea what is happening in America. It is completely divorced from reality, devoid of any understanding. And they always say that the organization reflects the leader. Well, they've got a feckless, pathetic, completely out to lunch leader, and that has completely permeated this White House, if you can call it that.
So at this point, it's hard to imagine how much worse the situation could get. In that case, the question I always return to, and you are a guy who's worked on so many campaigns, not just in the White House, your political sense is fine-tuned. Is there not a point, if you look at the cargo ships off LA, you look at the 2 million illegal aliens, you look at the 4 million people who resigned from their jobs last year, you look at the inflation, you look at everything to do with national security, with Afghanistan. Is there no point at which Biden becomes an albatross around the neck of the Democrats, or are they just too afraid to have the cackler in the Oval?
It's happened already. Look at Virginia.
Yeah.
Terry McAuliffe is losing to Youngkin in a race where Biden won by 10 points.
But hang on, Boris.
Okay?
Boris, it's not just that, Youngkin has a shot. Did you ever think that Terry McAuliffe would actually publicly state that the Democrat president is the reason that he might lose Virginia?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Judge Thomas, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
57 Muslim states in the world, one Jewish state.
Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
There's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward.
When Wright came in this morning, he wants to fight you.
No one expected this out of him.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I think she's aware of the situation we're in right now in terms of the potential impact on public safety. We're already short police officers. We're down, probably about 20% from where our peak staffing levels were a few years ago. So we're short patrol officers. We've been unsuccessful, like jurisdictions all across the country, at recruiting young people to choose careers in law enforcement. We have retirements happening at an accelerated pace. We can't afford to lose 1,000 police officers. We can't afford to fire 1,000 police officers over an impasse like this right now. So I think the mayor is aware that she's in an untenable position, as far as trying to bargain her way out of this. But frankly, she put herself in that position.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder, along with Josh Satley. Josh Satley is a firefighter paramedic at the City of Beverly Hills. He's done that now for 11 years. A lot of people want to talk to you, Josh, but I have a few more questions first. What is your religious denomination?
I'm actually LDS. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm Mormon.
Is there a position among LDS members about this issue?
Yeah, in fact, there is. It's strongly suggested that you do get vaccinated. However, if you have doubts, then you always refer to, even according to our handbook, you refer to prayer and you refer to the inspiration of the Holy Ghost. And that's where I stand. And because I feel so strongly about this, honestly, I've taken a step back and just tried to live more Christ-centered life with me and my wife and my children and get recentered, around our Savior. And that's where we're at.
Would you say, Josh, most Mormons are refusing to be vaccinated?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Mm-hmm. What is a firefighter paramedic?
So I'm a firefighter. So we're dual staffed essentially. So I'm an all risk employee there. So I can fight fire, I can do trench rescue, I can do technical rescue, and then also I respond to EMS calls, which in our city is 80 to 90% of our call volume. So as a paramedic, you're a higher level of care than an EMT. You can start IVs, you can do ACLS drugs, you can remove obstructed airways. And so that's the level of service that you provide to the community. But in our city, I can ride on the fire engine, I can ride on the fire truck, or I'll also transport on an ambulance too.
So all you guys are firefighter paramedics?
Not everyone, but a lot of us are at least a firefighter EMT, which is a little bit less medical care. But there are quite a few firefighter paramedics there in the city of Beverly Hills.
Why did you decide to become a firefighter?
Well, growing up, I always enjoyed really the level of service. There's several reasons. So I enjoyed serving people. It was really satisfying to me to help other individuals who needed it. for me, that was a big purpose of becoming a firefighter. And I know that's a lot of reasons. Secondly, I grew up playing a lot of sports. I love the brotherhood aspect of it. You get to hang out with your buddies all day. You get to work, play, and do all those things that guys do at the station, which are a lot of fun. And it was a career opportunity that, for me, was something different every day. I didn't want to sit behind a desk and just do a mundane job. I worked in the trades before I got in the fire service. I had appreciation for working with my hands and learning the trades.
I sit behind a desk.
No offense. Just wasn't for me.
What happened when you went home and told your wife that they're mandating that you become vaccinated? You're not going to do it. What did she say?
That's a great question, and that's actually a discussion that we had about a year ago. We could see the writing on the wall with this. I assumed the county would enforce this through not recerting my paramedic license. And then when this came out in August, it happened a lot sooner than we anticipated. And it was something that we've been praying about and discussing, and we knew that it really wasn't ever an option for me to sacrifice my morals to take the vaccine. And we knew that God's going to provide for us, whatever that is. I don't know. We have some peace in the fact that we know the outcome's going to be okay. We don't really know what that path looks like still.
As far as employment is concerned, what's your plan B?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm exploring all options at this point. I might get back into the trades, or there's other fire departments that are reaching out that aren't affected by this yet, or maybe not. I know Orange County's a stronghold, and they're still allowing the opportunity to choose, and that's all we ask for is really just the choice.
I know it's a long way away, but I understand that the governor of Florida is asking police officers who are being forced to be vaccinated, come on down. The climate is fine.
I saw that, yeah. I saw he was offering bonuses. These guys come down. I'd love that if it was a fire opportunity. Maybe I'll pack up the truck right now. We'll head down there.
A lot of mosquitoes there. I was just in Key West. Have your kids been vaccinated for measles, for mumps?
Yeah, they were. And that's a great question, too, because I feel like my wife and I have become really aware of what we're putting in our kids' bodies and our bodies over the last couple of years. I mean, I used to take certain pre-workout supplements that I don't take anymore because they cause cancer, or just trying to be better stewards over our bodies and over the things that we put in our bodies is what we've been doing over the last couple of years. More holistical healing, things of that nature.
All right, we come back. A number of people, Josh, want to speak with you. The number is 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Also want to know, what can we do in order to support you? What can we do in order to do something about this? Because I think it's outrageous, absolutely outrageous. I believe, unfortunately, that legally, once this thing gets litigated, it's going to be litigated up to the Supreme Court. We're going to find that the Supreme Court's going to rule that a governmental entity like yours has the power to do that, to demand this. I hope I'm wrong, but I suspect that's what's going to happen. I don't believe that the Supreme Court will rule that Joe Biden can mandate a private business force their employees to be vaccinated, but of course it's going to be litigated. Now, have you tried Relief Factor? 3-week quick start, discounted only $19.95. That is less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, we're talking about less than $1 a day to get you out of pain. The doctors who formulated Relief Factor came up with the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free to deal with pain from a separate metabolic pathway. So, if you've got back pain, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain from exercise, or just getting older, consider ordering the 3-week quick start. Over 70% of those who order it go on to order more. They lose money for every packet until 4 or 5 months after you keep ordering. Why do they do it? They want to make sure that it actually works. That's why 70%, as I mentioned, of people that order the 3-week quick start go on to order more. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
He is America. Captain America's trying, but nah, not so much. It's Superman. That's why kids have loved him. Adults have loved. When I saw Superman, I was, 8 years old, and I saw Christopher Reeve. You believed a man could fly. And I wanted to be an American, and now I am. But they've killed it. They killed James Bond in the new movie. Sorry, guys, spoilers. I've seen it. It's crap. Don't waste your time. They killed James Bond. Dead. Gone. Because I guess what? He was too sexy? Too toxic in his masculinity? Gone!
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did. I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
57 Muslim states in the world, one Jewish state.
Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea. There's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward.
When Wright came in this morning, he wants to fight you.
No one expected this out of him.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
How 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
Go to salemnow.com.
You know, a lot went into my decision for not, deciding to get the vaccine. For starters, I've had COVID in the past. I've come to understand that our reactions in terms of immunity by natural infection is robust and long-lasting. And so I have that with my current physical fitness level and my age group. I don't feel that I'm in a category of, fear or necessary need right now to get the vaccine. The craziness and the vitriol going around right now, people losing their jobs, I feel that the blatant miscarriage of information by the media has turned this thing so sour, and it's been politicized. And I see people, and I'm standing with people who are deciding not to get it on the backs of freedom. Freedom, giving people the choice, the religious freedom to choose what they want to do as our country was founded. And those are my reasons for not getting the vaccine at this time. It's not that people should not get the vaccine. That's not the argument. It's that for me, there aren't scientific, legal, or to me, moral grounds for the vaccine mandate itself. I think when you take into account the nature of COVID, the nature of the vaccine that doesn't stop infection or transmission, the nature of natural immunity that hasn't been talked about, and then obviously the polarization by the media that has created such distrust.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. That is Orlando Magic basketball player Jonathan Isaac, about why he refuses to take the vaccine. My in-studio guest is Josh Sattley, Sattley, firefighter, paramedic, City of Beverly Hills for 11 years. Josh, as I mentioned, a whole bunch of people want to talk to you. Richard is in Santa Clara, California. Richard, you're on with Josh and Larry.
Hey, brother Josh. How you doing, Larry?
Doing well.
Hey, brother, this is Mr. McGee, Deputy Robinson McGee. We chatted yesterday, man. Just wanted to say, hey, I'm listening to you live. Me and my family were praying for you. You're doing a great job. Hold that line, brother. We're right here with you, holding the line.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard.
Of course, man.
Appreciate it. Matilda is in Wisconsin. Matilda, you're on with Josh and Larry. Thank you for calling, Matilda.
Hello, thank you for taking my call. Josh and Larry, I work for a government entity that I guess President Biden has the right to mandate vaccines. We were allowed to submit for religious and or conscientious objection. But even if then we're submitted. We have to submit to weekly testing, and we cannot enter the building unless we give the results of that test to our direct supervisor. So I guess my personal health information is still compromised, the right to have that, because I still have to tell somebody who really has no right to know that.
Matilda, again, this is going to be litigated. That might very well be one of the arguments that those who don't want to be vaccinated are going to say, and that is I'm required to surrender my private medical information to other people. I'm sure, Josh, your lawyer is going to make that argument. By the way, have you contracted the coronavirus? Have you had it?
I have. I had it about a year ago.
Well, did you make the argument that the immunity is stronger than the vaccine?
Not in my religious exemptions interview. I did not. Yeah, but that argument's essentially removed. It's not on the table. We tried to negotiate that at the beginning with our association, and it just was an argument the city was having because they were saying we're tied to the mandate, and the mandate doesn't allow for that.
Amazing. I played the other day an undercover video by an organization called Project Veritas, and they recorded 3 scientists with Pfizer, all admitting that contracting the coronavirus and surviving it gives you stronger immunity than the vaccine. All admitting it. And a couple of them admitted that they can't say it publicly. They signed non-disclosure agreements. And if they ever said anything about this, they'd be in real deep trouble. But these are 3 scientists, not just staffers, scientists admitting, Pfizer scientists admitting, Josh, that once you've contracted the coronavirus as you have and survived it as you have, that you have a stronger immunity than those who get vaccinated.
Yeah, I've also read that Israeli study, I'm sure you're aware of too, where they confirm that.
But who cares?
But who cares? Yeah, right. That's not an argument.
Craig is in Ventura, California. Craig, you're on with Josh and Larry.
I just want to say, Josh, stay strong and appreciate that you're putting up the fight. And Larry, thanks for running for governor. That was great. Well, I'm calling all today because this issue definitely affects my family a great deal. My brother is an LAPD officer who is refusing to be vaccinated, and my son works for the United States Forestry. He is on his 4th season as a hot shot. As of December 11th, he is required to be vaccinated. Fortunately, he's refusing to get it, and it's a family issue on deciding whether he wants to be vaccinated or not. I am not vaccinated, gotten COVID, and I am for choice, your choice whether you want to get it or not. I am not against whether somebody gets it or not or judging anybody whether they get it or not. So we're going to lay off all these U.S. forestry guys who choose not to get vaccinated, and we already have a shortage in the forestry service as a whole to get anybody to even qualify for the positions, and that's the big argument at this point. With Newsom giving all this money to CAL FIRE, it's drained the Forest Service because they pay more than. That's a whole nother issue. So.
Well, Craig, thank you very much for calling. Josh, what about the impact of the city of Beverly Hills?
It's going to be all of Los Angeles. Right now, we're already experiencing a downgrade in EMS responses as far as paramedics. We were supposed to have paramedics on every call. The first couple of days in October, we didn't have that. Again, we're going to have delayed response times. That's going to be happening all throughout L.A. They're already grossly understaffed. They're having to brown out stations. AMR and other private ambulance.
What do you mean brown out stations?
Brown out stations means that they have to selectively pick which stations they don't have enough personnel to cover. So there's going to be delayed response time of where they can go. And then also there's going to be decreased response times in the county area with private ambulances that are missing because they are missing staff as well. And then hospital wait times are going up. So you're going to have ambulances stuck at the hospital longer and longer. And then obviously the police force. That means that's less police that can actually be out there on the streets helping to protect us and respond to calls. So you might have an abuse or you might have a physical altercation, and you're not going to get a police officer for a while. And if you call 911, you might only get one resource. You might get, and you don't even know what you're going to get at that point. So these are the real world ramifications of this, of what's going to be happening in LA and then across the nation. So if you're a community member or a citizen of a community, you should be really concerned as to these mandates and what's happening. And it should be a big question in your mind as to why so many people are resistant to the vaccine to begin with, because we've been working through the pandemic. It's a great point to bring up that, if it was really everything that's cracked up to be, we'd be running to go and get it. All of us. We would have got it voluntarily a long time ago, but there's so much problems over it.
My guest is Josh Satley. We're taking your calls at 888-971-SAGE. ReliefFactor.com. The doctors who designed it say our bodies are designed to heal. Designed to heal. And they formulated Relief Factor by choosing the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free to deal with pain from a different metabolic pathway. So if you've got pain, I'm talking about back, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain from exercise or just getting older, consider ordering the 3-week Quick Start. Over 70% of those go on to order more. They lose money for every pack until about 4 or 5 months after you keep ordering. Why do they lose money? They want to make sure it works for you. ReliefFactor.com, $19.95 for the 3-week Quick Start. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com. 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Judge Thomas, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
How 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans.
Go to salemnow.com.
All these other problems, terror, murder, robberies, kidnappings, is there any concern that if police forces shrink or if the size of the ready military force shrinks, that the United States or localities may not be equipped properly to deal with
Peter, more than 700,000 people have died of COVID. Again, it was the #1 cause of death among police departments and police officers. It's something that we should take seriously. Departments are trying to save people in their departments, people who work for them. We support that effort, and there's been success across the country in that regard.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. In studio with me is Josh Satley, firefighter paramedic, City of Beverly Hills for 11 years. Ray is in Livermore, California. Ray, you're on with Josh and Larry.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Josh, for taking a stand and being strong. A question for you, Larry, and a question for Josh, and I'll hang up. Larry, do you think this is a dangerous precedent that government officials can force individuals to put something in their veins? If this goes through, then they can force anything on us. Your opinion on that? And then to the firefighter, the public service unions typically encourage guys like you to vote Democrat. Do you see the union changing its stance or the rank and file really pushing back? Any opinions on that?
Okay, I'll respond to both of them. As to, do I worry about government forcing people to do this? Hell yeah, I worry about this. That's why I had Josh on. But I will tell you something. This is probably 25, 30 years ago, when out here in California, Josh, they were mandating that private businesses not allow people to smoke cigarettes inside the businesses. I said, what is this? And most people don't like to be around people who smoke cigarettes, so nobody gave a rip. But I said, think about what you're doing. You're telling a private owner of a bar who smokes cigarettes, whose waitresses smoke cigarettes, whose customers smoke cigarettes, I can't come in after work, have a beer, and smoke a cigarette, and the government's telling me I can't do that in my own shop? I said, if you can tell them they can do that, you can tell them they can do anything, including what Joe Biden wants to do, which is to tell you as a private business, you're going to mandate that your employees put a needle in their arm. What's the difference?
Yeah, there's no difference. And there was an argument we made in the firehouse a lot, was it started with the masks, now it's the vaccines, what's around the next corner? The boosters are next. If we don't take a booster shot, then you're back to no vax status.
Right.
And I'd always throw out there the crazy idea of, what are they going to tell you how many children to have in your home?
Right.
Are they going to force abortions? Like, what are they going to do next? That sounds so crazy.
Make sure you exercise 30 minutes a day. Make sure that you get 6 hours a day of sleep. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can mandate that would make us a healthier society. What were your symptoms when you contracted the coronavirus?
So I had a fever for about 12 hours. I lost my taste and my smell, which was the worst part because I love to eat. Mm-hmm. And then I had a cough that lasted probably 3 weeks. It just didn't seem to clear up.
You're young, you're fit, you look buff, you look like you could be a stuntman on a movie set. Hope you don't handle the prop gun. All right, Josh, thanks for coming in. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Got it.
Would you be okay?